We are go.
Welcome to All Sides of Kennebec. I'm Sean Karen.
And I'm Jeremy Lezop.
And tonight we have an extremely special guest. We have Curtis Ayotte in studio. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Long time no see, buddy.
Yeah, it's been a while. It's good to be home and get right back into it.
Definitely. I mean, you've been a pretty busy person. I mean, well, let's get into a little bit of your vacation, I guess we could talk about.
Yeah. So I left the state, went out west, did some traveling out there, but I'm looking forward to coming back home to Maine. It's always nice to get away, but it's even better to be home. While I was gone, I kept a pretty good eye on the Maine politics situation and the things that were going on. And I found some things that I'm not sure if you're aware of, if your viewers are aware of, but it's always good to take a look at what our politicians and what our elected officials are doing,
Absolutely.
especially when it comes to our money.
Definitely, and I know you've been also following a lot of the finances in Maine politics for quite a few years now.
Yeah, well, so I've worked in Maine politics for quite a number of years, and the thing that I always found more intriguing than anything else was to be able to follow the money and kind of find out where people were spending their money and find out what they were doing with that. Especially in regards to taxpayer money. Here in Maine, we have Maine Clean Elections, which is anything but clean. It's really it's just taxpayer funded elections is a better term for it, a more reasonable term for it. And so what we see a lot is that the politicians are taking advantage of that, and so sometimes the numbers don't lie, and you get to see them right in front of you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I know, too, some of the names that you've talked to me and we've spoken about, I mean, these are some names that I wouldn't even have thought to look at. I mean, I like to look at the expenditures and see what they're spending it on, but the issue I find is actually following it, like trying to make sense of it.
Yeah, it's really it can be sometimes difficult to find where the money goes because it's really a big shell game. We've pulled up in the studio in advance of this show the site maincampaignfinance.com, and that's really an important site that people that want to be in the know of what's going on in Maine politics, this is really kind of the starting point. If you're gonna tell somebody, if somebody's gonna say, how do I get involved in Maine politics or find out what's going on in Maine politics, the easiest way is to follow the money. And the Maine Ethics Commission sets up maincampaignfinance.com so that taxpayers and viewers have that as a tool and as an access point.
And it's actually a rather good website to be able to use to log in, either whether or not it's getting used to and finding information about the candidates or the PACs and things like that.
Yeah. So I mean, what started this conversation ultimately was I had made a video about the Republican House Leader Kathleen Dillingham had taken $25,000 from the House Republican Fund and had moved it into her own One Maine PAC. And that you can see, it's black and white on the page. You can go and verify that. You can pull up, if you pull up Maine House Republicans, you're going to find that there's a political action committee that's named Maine House Republicans or House Leadership Fund.
And if we just bear for a second, we'll see if we can't get that pulled up. But
is it rebuilding the Maine House?
No, it's Maine Leadership Republican Leadership Fund. House Republican majority.
Let's see, everything with the word Republican. House Republican Fund?
That's the one.
All right.
All right, as we pull this up.
Yeah, we're going to do
So-
it on the fly so that people
We are doing it on the fly.
don't think that we're doing something shady with it. So if you look at the, you can see the top donors on the screen there, and you can see that there's some pretty big donors on there. But also you can see if you go to expenditures.
And if you see why I'm looking this way, it's because this is where my monitor's
You
set
can
up.
see that there's a large number of expenditures that are going out already. But we're going to have to go into the actual filings first, and you're going to want to pull those reports. And in there, you're going to see a payment made to the one main pack when you open those up. And I think we're going to have to go through each one of these. But I think if you put it in if you start the farthest one out.
As in the oldest one?
The 2022. We're only looking
All
at
right, so we're looking at January 24-hour special election report.
let's go with, are there any other for 2022?
2022 starts here. by the
Perfect.
looks
Let's
of
pull
it.
that one.
Right here.
Yeah.
The one I was just referring to.
Okay. I got you.
And this may or may not be.
So this talks about how there's a contribution of $5,000 from Churchill Downs.
Okay. So that's not the one. But it's also important to understand where the money is coming in from.
That would be,
So we
let's
want,
try
I think
the second.
it's usually a quarterly report is the one.
So there's a January quarterly
it's
report.
probably the quarterly report.
All right, so let's
So
scroll
see if
down.
at a quick glance, the first screen on the top, if you go to that, that's actually going to give you kind of the overall view
Sure.
of what you're looking at.
Okay.
And if there's any expenditures on there, you'd see that right there.
And there are.
Okay, so now we see that there's expenditures and quite a hefty sum. So let's go ahead and see what those are down bottom.
Sure. All right, those are contributions. These are the expenditures.
Okay.
These are some of them. So there's only 3 here according to this, operating expenditures.
Okay.
And those numbers are small.
And what are those up top?
These are the cash contributions.
Okay. So we'll have to find it on the other one.
So what I'll do is I'll go into, I started with the 24-hour. We'll do this one, which was the one between.
It's on a quarterly.
Yeah, so there's only been quarterly in, actually, hold on
So
a second. Let me
we-
check out 2000 and
But actually, you know what? Check out the 2021 quarterly, that October quarterly.
October quarterly.
Yeah, let's see what that one is. Is that the same one we had open? No.
Nope.
Okay, good.
So let's see. This is cash. That's a lot of cash contributions.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So there's these expenditures. There's quite a bit. Nothing too large. Oh, $1,500, $1,000. $8,000.
Okay, what's that? 8,000.
Poland Spring Golf Course, $8,500.
So that was a fundraiser.
Okay.
That is a silly use of a fundraiser, but that actually tells me that it was the report just before that,
Oh, all right.
because I've looked at that before.
So it was a report before.
Yeah,
So there
I
was a July quarterly.
Yeah, let's try that one.
All right.
Again, we're doing this on the fly because
Sure are.
it's important that people understand how to navigate this and how difficult it also is to actually find this stuff,
Yeah.
which is going to lead into what I'm going to teach people how to do
All right.
a little bit later.
So this is the expenditures. There's 4,500s. Contribution to Maine GOP, Maine Republican Party,
Okay.
for 4,500.
Maine Republican Party, I'm sure, appreciates that donation.
I bet they do.
So that's like the biggest one on this group right here.
So it's definitely interesting being able to look at what is coming in and going out.
Yeah. So I mean, ultimately, we use this as an example to to be able to pull the information. And we can continue to keep finding this because it is in there. I've verified it a couple of times, and I actually have screenshots of it on my computer of where this stuff took place.
So what's a dollar figure that we're actually looking for here?
We're looking for, more specifically, we're looking for $25,000 that was sent from the Maine House Republicans to One Maine. Actually, you know what we can do? Let's go back to the homepage.
Okay.
And we'll show it coming into, because there's more than one way to show money being transferred. We'll show it coming into the One Maine PAC, because I think there's probably less donations coming in to One Maine PAC.
All right, so this is the main. Well, I mean, I'm at the
so
search bar.
So we're going to search on One Maine, and you're going to see that top.
One Maine.
Yep.
Landon says, "Keep up the good work."
Oh, awesome! I love Landon. So if you look at the top of this, you see that the
top donors. There's 5 top donors right here.
And so you look at the first one.
Looks like $25,000.
That's the number we're looking for. So that Maine House Republicans donated $25,000 to this PAC. So Kathleen Dillingham, being the leader, has access and has the authority to write that check for $25,000, and she generously donated $25,000 to her own PAC. So now we go into the expenditures on there.
And that would be looking at what it was spent on, correct?
Yeah, so that would be looking at what did we move $25,000 from the House Republican Fund. What did we do with that $25,000 that warranted that being moved over?
So this is the expenditures following all elections.
Yeah. So let's go into the actual filings again, because that's the bread and butter. That's what's going to show you what's going on.
So do you know which was it? What,
so let's do the quarterly
of 2021.
Let's do 2021 October, November 2021.
October is right here.
Okay, let's pull that one up.
Sure.
So as we scroll down, we're going to go down to, is that just the?
That's cash contributions.
That's cash contributions, yep. Oh, go up for a second.
Sure.
So this isn't the one I thought of, but this is kind of a neat little, if you look at the last item on the spreadsheet that's on the page right now, to JetBlue, you're looking at a standard charge for a bag lunch or something bought on a plane. And if you scroll down to the next page, you see that that's repeated about 5 or 6 times.
Oh, yeah.
That's an awful lot of lunch on the plane. You know what I'm saying? Like,
that definitely seems like a lot of lunch.
I assume it's probably for multiple people.
Yeah, I mean, it could be. So as we go down, you see some of the other operating expenditure. What's the total?
The total expenditures is $9,675.
Okay. So there's a lot more that find the $5,000 transaction in that report. Is it 5,000? Maybe not 5,000. There should be an airline ticket, I think, on there.
Let's do a search.
Airline tickets. So those are airline tickets, yeah.
$1,900.
So $1,900
from here to Dublin. That would probably be one ticket, I would think.
Yeah, that's probably one ticket.
So I don't think that's multiple people with lunches.
Well, I mean, I'm not going to make an unfair. I don't know what happened on that plane
To Ireland. Oh,
to
interesting.
Ireland.
It's an international conference.
Yeah, which I mean, politicians attend all the time.
Mm-hmm.
They do have that prerogative, and sometimes things come out of those. What's more interesting is that it was billed, and it also took place. It was safe enough to travel to Dublin, Ireland, but it wasn't safe enough to hear from your constituents and travel to Augusta to hear from.
Of course not.
That was while the legislature was closed.
Yeah, this was pretty much at the beginning of everything.
Yeah. So it seems
This would have been right around the time that Shelley Rednicki was still trying to get meetings
Shelley was
with the
going
governor.
knocking every day on the governor's door and
Yes.
posting videos on it.
So this
which was
looks like it was
hilarious.
in July of
Yeah.
last year, 2021.
Yeah. So while it was too dangerous to travel to Augusta, we had people in our own party. I say our own party. Some are not Republican, but
I'm libertarian.
I am a Republican.
So while it was too unsafe to meet with those constituents and hear from the needs of needy Mainers, it was okay to travel to Dublin, and ethics reports show that.
And the important thing about that, and the reason why people reiterate that, is because for a long time, people in things like they didn't get their workers' comp insurance, not workers' comp, but unemployment insurance and things like that.
Yeah.
It was, yes, a lot of people. It was
I still think I've heard reports that people still have, to this day, never got their
their
unemployment.
claims.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Yeah, it's definitely a setback. It's one that I wanted to make sure that I had a red and a blue example of kind of politicians behaving poorly.
Right.
And unfortunately, this one just comes from the top. It comes from the leadership. There's a couple of other examples. We saw it in the newspaper a couple of years ago when Kelly Julia, the Bangor Daily News did a coverage on it actually, where Kelly Julia had spent money on a lobster feed for volunteers, and it was paid for by taxpayer dollars, and it was largely
a substantial amount.
Yeah, it was quite a fee to the Maine taxpayers.
And I care because that's my district, or it's not now, but that used to be my district, and she was up against Matt Pouliot.
Yeah.
Who, if I remember correctly, is traditionally financed.
Yeah, actually, he may not like me saying this, but Matt's got an incredible. He's got an incredible list of names on his donor list, and should be considered an absolute powerhouse in the state.
Yeah, a very good fiduciary of the taxpayers' funds.
Yeah, and he's running it traditional. He's got a lot of money in the bank, and keeps going. That's one of those that if somebody's feeling froggy at home, and they want to go through a bunch of pack and filings, then that's a really good one, because there's a lot of information in there. And the reason I say a lot of good information is because there's a lot of information that people that are running now can use. You're not really supposed to go through and poach people's donors, but it's nice to know where the money's coming from.
Right, like the highest paying ones.
Yeah.
That way you kind of know these guys are high paying. We should probably leave these guys who only pay pennies on the dollar.
And not just that, it gives you a roadmap of where to go.
Yeah. So when the consultants and the think tanks and everybody, the people that fancy themselves as decision makers get together, they grade races, and they grade them based on, are they winnable,
Right,
what candidate,
probability.
They're just kind of they're running books on whether or not a candidate is viable. And so one of the ways that you can gain the information that they know is to use this site to put it into a usable format, because it really doesn't do us good to just know that politicians are corrupt, because really people have been screaming politicians are corrupt for a long time.
And
Absolutely.
you made a really good point earlier about when people understand that there is some shady stuff happening with tax funded money.
Yeah. I mean,
And with them being able to see what's happening with it.
so let me give you an example that could infuriate someone.
Sure.
So I had this idea a while back, and I don't think I would ever do it because it would really just tear on just about everything in my body. But we have clean elections available for our gubernatorial candidates that can pull in millions of dollars,
Right.
really, depending on where they're at in the polls. So if a person wanted to run for office and they wanted to take the clean elections money that they get and they wanted to run it through a wood chipper, they could actually do that.
Mhm.
If they wanted to, if I wanted to be a candidate and hire my good friend Sean on as a consultant, I can pay him whatever I feel is fair. If the standard amount is $68,000 per Senate candidate,
Right.
I can say, hey, Sean, come to work for me for $65,000, and here you go. And I can.
And that's all tax
yeah.
funded.
And we haven't had anyone that's blatantly just straight up stolen that money yet. Mm-hmm. But it's not going to be long before somebody figures out that
they can.
Yeah.
And I'm sure
now,
there's
you would have to win a primary or go out and get the $5 checks. Yeah, you sure would. Mm-hmm. But once you've done that, there's nothing
stopping it.
Yeah, there's nothing stopping somebody from just saying, "Well, I'm done," and walking away.
Right.
Well, and like you said too, I mean, you could use the money within your campaign almost how you like.
You can put it in a wood chipper.
Yep.
And it's
$10,000.
It's gone. It is.
Run it right through the wood chipper.
It's sad how easy it is for something like that to happen, though.
It really it's a loophole that that this taxpayer-funded elections program has caused.
So I did, because I've had a big issue with this for a while. So a couple weeks ago, I did some research, and just in 2018, just for the House and the Senate legislators, they used $3 million of tax fund just between those House and Senate candidates for clean elections in 2018.
Yep.
That $3 million, and there's people that are just walking the streets.
That's $3 million that aren't going to be spent on fixing potholes.
Right. Yeah.
Right, and
or helping feed homeless people,
or helping feed homeless,
kids.
or we can't.
And that's what it is. It takes from the other programs that are beneficial to
we can't
society.
meet the needs for our recovering addicts,
right?
Because we've got to take the money because our politicians need road signs.
Yeah. Yeah.
That I don't know of anybody that doesn't complain about road signs, and I've put up hundreds of thousands of them.
Done quite a few myself over the years.
So one of the ways that that we can use this information in a usable way that's going to benefit people on the large scale. And I asked you earlier before we started if we could just make kind of a template. And I'm going to open this up to the audience, and I'm going to ask Sean to kind of watch the chat or whatever. If anybody can send the name, just send the name of a politician, and we'll look them up. And we'll actually that way everybody can say that it's not staged. We don't have.
Right.
Yes, definitely. Give us a
John Andrews, my friend John Andrews just started watching. So why don't someone that's watching, Larry, Mary, John, Gerard, someone watching, give us a name of a politician.
Yeah. Anyone you want, we'll look them up.
We'll look it up on the fly.
And we'll go over some stuff. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to do this game.
And as we wait for this to come in, let's also remind people that this is all possible because of a shared studio here in Waterville. So if you have an idea for a podcast, a shared studio could definitely help you make that happen. So definitely contact a shared studio here in Waterville.
Oh, Justin Fecto. So I will admit that Sean's really good at plugging it, and I own the shared studio. I should probably Justin, Chloe Maximum, Troy Jackson, Ryan Fecto.
So let's start with Troy Jackson, because we did Chloe Maximum earlier. However you pronounce her name, I heard she's not running again, so that's probably
I'm horrible with names.
That's a good thing for me.
All right, so we're doing Troy Jackson.
Yeah, let's do Troy Jackson.
My boy in the Senate.
Yeah.
Not really. I'm really not.
So we're gonna have a lot of material to work with Troy because he's in leadership. So there's gonna be a lot on there.
All right. So Troy Jackson, he's the incumbent. District 1, wow. So they started way up top for the numbering of the district.
So that flips every 10 years. Those numbers will flip. And then so the house numbers also flip. They flip with the census.
Justin Fecto.
Oh, you know what? Actually, I was going to say let's do Justin Fecto since he volunteered himself. He offered up himself.
He's no longer
serving, so we're not going to do any harm.
Honestly, we miss you, Justin.
We do. So this first screen gives the initial the overview of what he did.
Yep.
And so
like a summary.
the overall summary. So you see on the top donors on the left.
Rhonda
Yeah, you see
himself.
You see himself, Rhonda, Deb Sanderson, Pouliot Real Estate. So that'd be Matt Pouliot.
And his wife.
And I don't know what Patriot Consulting Group is, but we can look them up. And those are all in the amount of $400. So those are the max out donors. And he had quite a few of those, I think. So if you look at contributions,
He ran traditional.
he ran traditional, yeah. His treasurer was Dave Medor. It shows. Oh, there goes my headphones. So you see that most of what he got, $11,410, was from individual donations.
Wow.
I kind of
good
like
job.
how that puts it into that
I
pie
like that.
chart. That's
Yeah,
kind of
nice.
neat.
Yeah. So the way that you can use this information, and we can always dig in deeper if
Sure.
we want. But right now, I really want to show people how to kind of use this as a mechanism to identify seats.
Yeah, of course.
So let's use Justin again.
All right.
And so Representative Fecto, we're going to put it into the Excel document that I had created with a template.
All right. So we'll go back up here. We'll go.
And so all we did was we have last name, first name, party affiliation.
And this is a good way to make a template so that you can follow for yourself.
Yeah, so what I do the day after the election is I go through and I create one of these, and I like to list off what term they're in. So the term that I use for term is actually whether they're in their first, second, third, or fourth term.
Okay. So I believe
So
he was in his first one.
He was in his second term.
Oh, because he had just
Yep.
won
Yeah.
re-election. and then
So
he had to
yeah,
leave.
so he was in his second term.
Yep, that's right.
And so the percent one, we can go back and I would pull that from Ballotpedia.
Okay.
I would actually, for this example, we're going to leave that blank, but
'Cause it's not really important.
I was going to say, but his percentage one, I think, was 56%.
We'll put that there. Justin can correct us.
Yeah,
on the
yeah.
fly
Justin
if
will tell
he's-
us the exact number of votes or something,
Right.
and then be angry that I didn't get it right. But that's
Just
okay.
for general
Just
consensus
for general
right now.
consensus.
That's right.
The financing is going to be either traditional or MCEA, and so he's traditional.
Yeah, I spelled that.
And so then we put the money raised. And by the way, color coding in those documents helps a lot.
Okay.
Because as we're getting more and more data in there,
Mhm.
you're going to want to look through real quick. You're going
Right.
to want to be able to skim for this information real quick. So when you put the money raised on the top category, we go back to the full amount raised for the election. So you're usually going to pull that last report, and that's going to have the total amount raised.
The last one. So I guess what?
January, yeah.
All right.
So that should show the total amount raised
Total.
for that last period. What do we got on there?
I'm looking for the word raised. Looks like cash contributions for election raised 7,975.
Okay, so go back to it's on the main page, I guess. Yeah, up top. Sorry.
Definitely give us a like and share on this podcast too. That'll definitely help us out with our viewership and as we grow this page.
Absolutely. So race at a glance.
Whoops. Hold on. That's registration.
There we go.
Right
Race at a glance. So that is the amount, the $29,324.95. So we put that number into the category. Yep. And then the trend in that district is whether or not. So what I do is I take it off of my last year's report.
Okay.
And so if the seat was blue, then it would trend blue. If it was red, so this one is in trend R. And the money remaining is an important part because a lot of times in the traditional only 20,
Friggin' Justin.
those are rookie numbers.
Well, yeah.
So the money remaining,
He took it all with him.
he didn't
Bastard.
take it all with him, but
Totally just kidding.
but that's a good indicator. The money remaining is ultimately what's going to be your early on cash on hand for the next race.
Okay.
So let's pretend that a magic world, Janet Mills had not ruined Maine and forced one of our best state representatives out of the state. In that case, Justin Fecteau, maybe he spent all but $4,000.
Mm-hmm.
His and we don't need to dig into that number for this example.
Right.
But let's just put money remaining $4K just as a ballpark. He had $4,000 remaining.
Good, easy.
I would put that as just as a guesstimate.
Yep.
We could certainly dig into those expenditure reports.
Mm-hmm.
We could find out to the last dollar how much he has remaining. And I think there's even an area where it shows like cash left on hand.
Okay.
In the main area there that we can pull up. But that's going to give you an indicator of what next year's numbers are going to look like, because they're going to start
Right.
with about that same amount of money. They maybe did one or two fundraisers in the off cycle, but realistically, a lot of people aren't fundraising in the off cycle. So that's going to give you an indicator of if somebody's going to be strong coming into a third term, or if they're going to be looking at leadership. If Justin Fecteau, for instance, had raised $29,000 and still had $27,000 going into his third term, I would say that's probably a good candidate for leadership.
Yeah.
Right.
Because they're saving that money in hopes of using it to influence races outside of their own district. And that's how the leaders are selected.
Oh, all right. Good to know.
Definitely
It's very
very,
informative.
very good insight on this.
Yeah, so and as you fill that up, if you list off every single seat in the state, you can have 153 different
Right.
columns there, and they're all going to get filled up. But you're also going to be able to look through real quick, and you're going to know exactly which seats are terming out,
Right.
which is important, because if somebody's terming out, you know that you want to make sure that you have a strong incumbent going in their first, second, or fourth term.
Mm-hmm.
The fourth, and only on the fourth if they're planning on running when that person terms out. So, sorry, I think I busted up the camera. Sliding out of frame here.
A little bit.
I get moving around and energized about this stuff.
Me too.
No worries.
But what everyone at home should be doing is they should be taking seats 1 through, how many, including the Senate? You're looking at 35 Senate seats plus 100.
I think it's like, what,
53?
100 and... Well, yeah, because it's...
54?
What?
150. I think it's 153.
I think you're right. Yeah, I think you're right. I think
it's 100. I think it's 153 seats in the House
I think you're
and
right.
35 in the Senate, which, doing some bad math, is 188 different. So you should have a column with 188 different seats.
Mm-hmm.
And I might even include the governor and some PACs in there, because this information isn't just isolated to candidates,
Right.
but it also includes any registered PAC in the state of Maine. So when you see that Friends of Janet Mills has $87 million, you know that that's the same.
CMP money. I'm just kidding.
It may be. We can talk percentages on different shows.
Right.
I voted no on one, so we won't go there.
It is what it is.
It's important to keep track of these guys.
Absolutely.
Whether or not you're tracking just a solo politician, or leadership PACs, or even PACs that are not associated with leaderships, things like that. Finding out where those monies are coming from is really, really important. If you look back on the One Main PAC, you see that there's some really interesting donors to that PAC. We looked at that one early, but even looking at the number 4 on there, this is a Republican House leader that clearly has Big Pharma
Right.
on her books.
So my one issue with this website, as great as it is I wish you can click on these top donors, and it will bring you
To their,
to their
site.
profile.
So you can actually do a Google search
of
for
their
that
name.
acronym.
Yep.
So just as a
Lobbying, look at that.
yeah, so it doesn't take you much of a search to figure out where that money's coming from.
Not at all.
And so when you have representatives like Shelley Rudnicki, who's trying to talk with the governor about very serious issues that are affecting Maine people, and you have leadership that is
Literally taking money from Big Pharma.
From Big Pharma.
Right.
It's not hard to surmise why people are having trust issues.
Right.
Right.
Look at this
Absolutely.
hand while this hand reaches around and takes the money from that pocket.
And I don't want to single anyone out, because this isn't an isolated incident. If you want to follow the money on any politician, it's going to show you. It's going to show you
How rampant it is. I mean, that's one thing that I had put in with one of the draw-up videos that I made for you coming onto the show. It's sickening how rampant it has become across both parties.
Yeah, well, and part of that is we keep electing people and they keep making it easier to do it.
Right. And then the ones that are trying to fix it don't get the help that they need to get it done. So
Right.
It's definitely a good outlook to figure out how to look at this stuff so that we don't keep repeating the same insanity that we keep repeating every 2 to 4 years, depending on which election it is.
I know personally we're going to use this info for the Libertarian Party of Maine and hopefully go after some of these candidates. And
Yeah. So what's really interesting is when you get your spreadsheet complete, and you can see the full completed picture. You'll see it once somebody opens your eyes to it, and you see that there are seats where you have somebody that's a first-termer that doesn't have any money. They're a weak candidate, and so putting a strong candidate and making sure that that real grassroots efforts are going into finding strong candidates that can make a run for those seats. It allows those campaigns to be run cost effectively,
right.
and efficiently. And also, it gives you an idea of where the big parties are going to put resources, because they're both using the same information.
Right.
They're just
Interpreting
they're positioning their chess pieces differently.
Of course.
And so if you want your piece on the board, it's important to understand where they're putting theirs.
So that you can put yours other places. Yeah, that's awesome. That's very handy.
Definitely. Definitely. Another spot, because we're coming up on about 40 minutes, so I guess this is probably the last topic. Looking at Maine as a whole, what's some good? Is there anything good coming to Maine?
Yeah, you know what? So it's funny because I made one video about campaign finance, and everybody's like, "Oh, you're just attacking people," and I'm like, "Man, I didn't think I was attacking people. I thought there was a lot to look forward to in Maine."
Right. I thought you were educating people.
Yeah, so there's a groundswell of grassroots activity in Maine.
Absolutely.
And I think people should be excited about that. I see that as a really good sign that the silence from the left it's silent acknowledgement of the failures of the Biden administration.
Yep.
It's silent acceptance of the Mills administration failures. We're seeing those units fail time and time again because they have bad policies, and they're going to continue to fail. The good news is that those swing voters that didn't like Trump's mean tweets have kind of realized that those mean tweets were affecting more than just one or two outcomes,
right?
And that sometimes
the mean tweets are worth it.
Yeah, sometimes sometimes truth is hard. And sometimes...
that's what it's about, being able to let certain things roll off your shoulder and not taking it too hard to the point where it's going to hurt you in the long run.
Yeah, I mean, if a family couple, if a couple of people are struggling financially and they're in a marriage or a union or even cohabitating or whatever, and they're relying upon another person's income, and people aren't being truthful about what's going in or coming out, it can be detrimental, and we're seeing that in Maine. We're seeing, we not too long ago we had a conversation about the minimum wage and the minimum wage going up to $15 an hour, and everybody swore up and down on the right. They said this is going to cause inflation. This is going to cause inflation, and we did it, and lo and behold, inflation has now reared its ugly head, and here we are, where Maine families are already struggling.
Definitely really starting to feel the pinch now.
And most people that are following this, most people that are following the economic structure of America are saying it's going to get worse.
Yep.
And we're already seeing Maine families struggling.
And our minimum wage is now tied to cost of living.
Yeah.
So it's set to go up year after year, assuming that cost of living goes up, which it will.
Yeah.
Right now it's at $12.75 an hour, and it's not. There's no cap.
The good news is that LePage does seem to be making some pretty good headway. Just in the short time that I've been home, talking with people, it does seem that there's a little bit more understanding of why that kind of brash tax politics persona gets put out there, because I've met Paul LePage, and he's a wonderful guy.
Yep.
He's not at all the monster that the media makes him out to be. Surprise, surprise. But he seems to be making some inroads. Bruce Poliquin seems to be making some inroads. The attack politics, the negative politics hasn't started yet, though. So that's going to be something to kind of watch for.
Right. I think those will probably start after the primaries.
Yeah. They'll probably start
after June,
trying to soften up those guys.
Yeah.
And it's going to be important to kind of isolate, not isolate, but insulate those guys, and kind of support them and let people know, hey, this media attack is just not happening, because at this point, people aren't undecided on whether or not they trust the media. They either do or do not trust the media.
Right. Yeah. I don't think there is any undecided. You either do or you don't.
Yeah,
when it comes
no
to
in between here.
I don't think there is.
Yeah.
And staying on a high note too, with the Maine GOP on the grassroots level, I have noticed that there is a better connection with our younger voters.
Yeah,
that is starting to become more prevalent.
They seem to be putting a lot of emphasis into youth again, which is exciting. I hope, it's always been my hope, that they'll start focusing on those school boards and local town seats, because that's how you build the bench for the next year. Democrats have been doing that for about 20 to 30 years in Maine, from best I can tell, and that's why they have control of every school board in town.
Well, we've had this conversation before. I mean, and we've talked about how the Democrats look at the end game, well, further out than what the beginning part of it would be. So just getting into it isn't really where they're looking. They're looking 3, 4, 5, 6 years out, vice the 30, 60, 90 days.
I see the chat, and I know that we got some dinner table members that are in the chat, which is awesome.
I also belong to the dinner table.
I do too.
Yeah,
I like what they're doing. I'm very interested.
You gonna be my plus one?
Hey, you want to pick me up? I'll go.
So
I've promoted them here on the show. I've definitely told people to check them out. Jeremy is, what was it, 2/4 member, I think is what you were saying there.
Yeah, well, because I paid my part, now I got to bring a friend.
Yeah, that's the plus one. That's
yeah.
So, work on Sean.
Yeah,
I've been trying.
They're doing incredible work. They're gonna get attacked. Some people are not gonna like what they're doing. Some people are gonna love what they're doing. But they're doing it, and they're doing it the hard way.
Yep.
But they're doing it the right way, and I think that's important. I'm a big fan of what they're doing. It's good to see genuine grassroots movements taking place in Maine. I've always been a big fan of kind of those grassroots.
It kind of takes me back to the 2010 with the Tea Party people.
Yeah, it's very reminiscent. The thing that I just love that kind of group, that grassroots effect, because the people that are donating to the dinner table, they're not just donating. They're engaging them in other ways. They're getting them to do flyers, things like that. They're really making it a team effort, and they're gonna have a better feel on who's ready to be a candidate, because ultimately at the end of the day, all the money, all the data in the world doesn't make a hill of beans if the candidate's not willing to work.
Yep, absolutely.
If the candidate,
that's what makes the dinner table pack different. It's not just taking donations. It's actually, putting boots on the ground and needing both of those aspects to be able for it to succeed.
Yeah, and just to tie it back into campaign finance, maybe they don't want people looking at their finances because they're going to get some ideas. But ultimately, if you look at the campaign finances of the dinner table pack and where they're at, I think I'm going to be pretty optimistic, and I think they're going to hit 400,000.
Wow.
I think they're going to have $400,000 by the time the election rolls in. It'll be a monumental effort, but it's going to set them apart. And I think, I don't know what their goals are. I don't have the inner workings there, and I'd choose not to pontificate about that.
Right.
But what I do see, as far as their fundraising, their current fundraising, I think they're in the range of it. They're certainly going to be the highest grossing pack on the right, with absolutely no competitors.
Yeah.
So I think people should be really excited about that.
And I like how they're also
That's right, Justin.
reaching out to the candidates that are having a harder time
Yeah.
with getting their campaign. I don't want to say started, but it's in between that start stage and that hitting the ground running.
Well, half the interviews that we've had here are from the dinner table pack.
True.
Members of the
Yes,
dinner table pack.
yes.
They and they're gonna have a lot of members. They're gonna have a lot of.
Well, I think, what was it? It was 32. They were running 32 people this time around. I think it was the number.
I don't remember.
It was 30 something. It was, or 28, something like that. It was a significant amount of people. It was between like 25 and 35, somewhere in there.
It's
I know
definitely
that.
something. It's definitely something to look forward to in 2022.
Right.
I think that's going to be the wild card. I think the dinner table pack that's my wild card going into 2022 is really being excited about what they're doing.
Absolutely.
Definitely something to keep an eye on for sure.
That's why I'm glad that I'm part of it personally.
Yeah, it's fun. They make it fun. They make it intentionally engaging. They're doing a great job with it. I think that's the wild card, the one to watch. I think the other thing that's going to be fun to watch is a lot of the big money spending that's going to come in. And again, go back to those same sites, and you're going to see where that money comes from.
Right.
You don't have to go back too many degrees before you start realizing that, hey, these guys are doing things.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely. And yeah, I mean, it's been an awesome thing to sit down and actually go through and learn a way to set it up. I do think that going forward is going to help me, because I like how you set that up. That does work well.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to use this
So
going forward.
yeah, if you guys are interested in getting that set up, definitely reach out to us, and we'll figure out a way to get you an ideal outlook on how it looks.
Yeah, it'll take time to gather the data, but it's once you start it, and I encourage everybody to collect their own data, because there's a lot of lessons that you learn.
Well, I think
while
too,
you're collecting it.
I think too, if more people start doing it, when you do bring your data points together, it'll be able to verify and check to make sure that you
It's like
are
a check and balance
right.
kind of
It
thing.
gives you that balance set, but it's more at the grassroots level.
I think personally,
So-
the more people do this, the more scared that the actual politicians will be, because I don't think the politicians that are out spending all this money are realizing that people are going to start watching what they're doing, and they're going to have to rein it in, or it's going to be so blatantly obvious to people going forward.
Yeah, once people realize what's going on, it really does put the pressure on it. I loved the title that we gave in one of the teasers of political malcontent, because we couldn't figure out what my title was, because I'm not working in politics. I'm not interested in going back to that right now. I never say never, but it's not in the cards at this moment. So there really wasn't a good title to put on there, other than guy that randomly grabs data.
It has all the knowledge.
Yeah, and
That's
it
kinda
didn't.
long.
It didn't fit on the title. So it's just I love that that people would be interested in gathering those data points and collecting them, because it really does tell a story of what's actually going on in Maine. And I would dare say that it tells you what's going to happen in the next 2 years. It allows you to kind of forecast.
Look into the future a little bit unofficially.
Yeah. And not that that's indicative. We've had candidates that that raised what was that? Justin Fecto's rookie numbers, 29,000.
Yeah.
And then they didn't run the next year.
Right.
So
Like this guy.
Well, going back a little bit too, we were talking about earlier about some politicians who have collected this money and not even run for the position.
Oh man,
So-
I can't even believe we forgot that one.
Yeah, I just
So-
want to
yeah.
get that in there.
Before here.
Yeah,
we
so-
still have
I'll fit it in
still
real
got like
quick, but
10, 15
so,
minutes.
So we had a race back with Shenna Bellows when that Senate seat became open. That she took $68,000 from the Maine taxpayers under the MCEA taxpayer-funded elections, won the election, and then never took the seat because she took the job as Secretary of State.
Oh my God.
So that was $68,000 that just vanished into the wind.
Justin said 73,000.
73,000.
Plus.
Wow, that's a lot of money.
That is a lot of money.
Yeah, for a seat that she never even took. She never sat in that seat.
What about and someone Kevin Kitchen just mentioned Perkins Congress run. So Mike Perkins, he was running for U.S. Congress,
Yeah.
and I don't know.
So I don't
what
think
he
we have clean
raised.
elections on races for Congress.
I
Though.
don't think so.
I don't
Yeah,
think
I think it's
So
just
I mean,
state.
so if
Because it's
so
Maine
if
clean
so,
elections.
so if
Yeah.
if Mike Perkins took out his own money to run for Congress and failed, like, I mean, I like Mike Perkins enough
Yeah.
to say that was kind of a silly venture.
Yeah, that was
right?
rough.
I mean, like,
Well, I saw that
Sorry.
he did like his entire like a wrap on his vehicle.
Yeah,
for
he
his-
did.
for his Congress run, and then he had to rewrap it for a state run.
oh no,
Yeah,
Yeah.
because he's my rep right now. So.
that's rough. I like Mike. I
I know
still-
he got
I'm
hit
still
hard
trying
too
to get
with
him
COVID.
on the show,
so,
Mike. So
yeah,
if you're listening, I'd still love to get you on the
Yeah.
show for your.
I mean,
your
it
Senate
stinks.
primary.
We love that. That he's got ambitions and that he, because there's nothing wrong.
Right.
If Mike's spending his own money on his own race, like,
And I'm glad you're healthier now, and you're
yes,
because he had COVID, which is
that's what
kind of
what
kicked
kind of
him.
knocked him out.
that's
It
what
was-
knocked him
yeah,
out was
he-
COVID. COVID. He was a COVID casualty.
Yeah, he.
No
COVID
kidding.
casualty.
I know he had a little bit. If I remember right, he had a little bit of a harder time.
Yeah, recovering.
The recovery
He was
aspect, and
out
he
of
was
the
worried
home for
about.
like 3 weeks.
Yeah, he was worried about the travel and
Yeah, it ain't
what
no
that
joke.
might look
No.
like.
It ain't no joke.
So-
I
But
mean,
he
like,
was all gung ho up until he got that. COVID.
Yeah, that knocked him down. It hit him hard. So
that's too bad.
I definitely would have liked to see him over Bruce Pollock win though.
absolutely,
I'm loyal
was,
to Bruce.
I
I make
was-
no bones about it.
I was excited for that race, and now I guess
Well, now it's Liz Caruso.
Oh, yeah,
that's running.
I get there's another candidate that's in the race there.
Yeah,
Um,
she's from like Where is that? Like the Forks area.
Yeah, Fort Kent
You can-
up
you
that
can
area.
actually-
No,
Fork,
not
just
Fort
the
Kent.
Forks.
You can track the federal donations as well.
Okay.
That's the federal elections. The federal elections.
That's going to be
website.
for. That's gonna
I was going to say, but that's going to have to be for
different
another day
show.
because I see the clock running and I'm like, oh gosh, yeah, we got to get this wrapped
Yeah.
up.
But so if anybody has any questions for you, where can they reach you if they want to
You're
ask
not
you
a
any
politician,
questions?
so-
Yeah,
So
I don't know. Like, give me a call. Like,
do you want to give an email?
No, heck no.
Best place to reach you,
no.
Facebook.
Last time I put my personal information out on the internet.
No,
got
I don't
death
mean.
threats.
Well, I
You
got
don't
I
wanna
got an
dox
email.
yourself.
Yeah, right.
I mean,
No,
like
I
I got
don't
an
do
email that I use just to give out to, just so
No,
I
you
can
know,
connect with people.
I mean,
but-
most people. I'm not hard to find on social
Right. Most people
medias.
know you, or probably should.
Or you can look me up on Facebook. I think I'm only like a week and a half away from being deleted from there, though.
yeah,
so I
it's-
don't
I
know.
noticed that your name isn't quite on there. It's like a different
Yeah,
name.
I had to. So
like Kitty Cat Curtis or something.
yeah, so no
like
kidding.
that.
Those Dems don't fight
They don't fight fair.
real fair.
No.
So I, in order to protect the innocent,
Right.
I laid a little bit low on social media. I'm not trying to hide anything, but I am
Trying to hide yourself.
well,
I
there's no
am-
point in
harassment.
putting yourself in a fight if you don't have to.
or what was more happening was people were coming to my house, and so
That's understandable.
yeah. So
I've
when that
had that
happened, I
happen a
had
couple
to,
times myself.
I had to file a report,
Oof.
and it was just a mess. So I backed a little bit away from the.
It's
social media
understandable.
stuff.
Definitely understandable.
So Justin just gave you an email address. drunkmalcontent@curtis.com.
Drunken. Please tell me you registered that, Justin. Please.
Oh man, too
Please
funny.
Send me the password to that.
You're gonna get a Gmail thing in your messenger here in a minute.
Sheesh. Well, this was a good chat. I appreciate
Definitely.
you coming on.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, I'd like to thank you for coming on to All Sides of Kennebec. I'm Sean Karen.
I'm Jeremy Lee's up.
And definitely thank you, Curtis Ayotte, for coming on. We would also like to thank A Shared Studio for making this all possible. So
This is incredible here.
this
Yeah.
is a nice setup.
It's nice. I like it.
So-
and, also, I'm just gonna plug this. Kevin Kitchen. I'm gonna share his podcast out. Also, he's got his podcast out now. But I'll share that out on Facebook
Yeah.
too.
Definitely. Also, we're going to be doing a double show tonight. So definitely.
Right after this.
Yes. So definitely stay put. We're going to sign off of this, and then we're going to be coming back with a new live. So you'll have to refresh the feed to get it. But we're going to be welcoming Sean Fury, who is a peer-to-peer and group support person who is definitely working and grinding to get people the help that they need, who are definitely focused and succeeding in recovery. So we have that coming on next at 8 o'clock.
It's 8:01 now.
Oh, geez, yeah. So until next time, remember, a true patriot questions everything, and thank you for